The infamous show that once had a murderer standing right in front of the cameras and no one had a clue. He was just chosen for his good looks. These 70 reality shows weren't just outrageous, they were filled with scandal, weirdness, and twisted secrets lurking behind every smile and every camera shot. But were they really just accidents, or was there something more sinister at play? Get ready to uncover the dark side of TV history that nobody talks about. It was supposed to be a simple documentary showing the day-to-day lives of a typical American family, but what unfolded on screen was far more than normal. The show quickly became infamous for exposing secrets no one expected to see, especially not on national TV. The most shocking moment was the very public collapse of Pat and Bill Loud's marriage. After 21 years together, the cameras were rolling when Pat dropped the bombshell that she wanted a divorce. Right there, on camera, for the entire world to watch. It wasn't scripted, it was real, and it felt like we were intruding on something too personal. Then there's Lance Loud, the Loud family's son, who made history by becoming one of the first openly gay people to appear on TV. At the time, this was groundbreaking, but not everyone was ready to embrace it. His very presence sparked heated debates about sexuality in the media, and some people were openly hostile. Lance's courage to be himself was a huge step forward, but was it his choice to make, or was it manipulated by producers looking for something sensational? Speaking of producers, there were whispers that An American Family wasn't as innocent as it seemed. Allegations surfaced that producer Craig Gilbert may have deliberately stirred up drama to make the show more compelling. Was the crew responsible for pushing those families to reveal more than what they were comfortable with? For decades, Candid Camera pranked its way into America's heart. But beneath all the laughter and surprise, there were darker layers hiding in plain sight. What started as a radio show called Candid Microphone in 1947 quickly transitioned to TV in 1948, where unsuspecting individuals became the targets of hidden cameras and outrageous pranks. The beauty of the show was the spontaneity, or at least that's what it seemed to be. But as time went on, questions started to creep in. How much of this was actually real? The core premise was simple: catch people off guard and record their genuine reactions to bizarre, awkward, and sometimes downright absurd situations. But here's where it gets murky. How unscripted were these reactions really? As the show became more popular, rumors began circulating that many of the reactions we saw on screen weren't as authentic as they seemed. Allegedly, some participants were in on the joke from the start, leading to accusations that the show was just staging certain pranks. Then there was the ethical concerns that haunted Candid Camera. Secretly recording unsuspecting individuals without their consent isn't exactly the type of thing that sits well with everyone. The idea of invading someone's personal space, pranking them into uncomfortable situations, and capturing their reactions for public entertainment raised serious privacy concerns. What happens when the joke goes too far? Sure, some people laughed it off, but others didn't find it quite so funny. There are stories of people who were humiliated or distressed by the pranks, but their discomfort never made it to the show's highlight reel. And let's not forget the lasting impact Candid Camera had on the reality TV genre. Despite all the criticisms, this was one of the first shows to push boundaries, blending real-life reactions with unscripted moments. The Dating Game was a colorful and quirky show where love, or at least a date, was just a few questions away. A bachelor or bachelorette would quiz 3 hidden contestants, finding out who would be the perfect match. On the surface, it seemed harmless, even fun, with contestants often delivering cheeky one-liners and flirty banter. But lurking beneath the bright lights was an incident so terrifying it raised serious questions about the show's safety standards. In 1978, a man named Rodney Alcala appeared as a contestant on The Dating Game. At the time, no one knew what a monster he truly was. Alcala was charming, funny, and played the game like any other contestant. He won the date. But after the show, the bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, was so disturbed by his unsettling demeanor that she canceled the date. It turns out she dodged a bullet because Rodney was a serial killer. He had already been convicted of multiple murders by the time he appeared on the show. The show had failed to do any background checks, and here was a man who would later go on to murder several victims, all while making TV appearances on a popular dating game. It's one of the most horrific moments in TV history, and a reminder of just how little scrutiny went into casting back then. But let's not ignore the cultural significance of the show. The dating game wasn't just a matchmaking competition, it was a reflection of the evolving dating culture in the 60s and 70s. The show mirrored shifting attitudes towards courtship, relationships, and the growing influence of TV on social behavior. The questions were playful, a little cheeky, and sometimes downright bizarre, which made for great entertainment but also subtly showed how societal norms were changing in real time. The show's contestants, often young, attractive, and eager to find love, represented the ideals of an era that was still figuring out what love, dating, and relationships really meant. Despite the fun and innocent exterior, the dating game became a cautionary tale about how easily the spotlight can be on the wrong person. A simple game of who's the most charming could have deadly consequences, and for a while, it did. The unsettling fact that a future serial killer walked away from the show with a date and a smile will forever haunt its legacy. The Gong Show was like no other talent competition, and that's exactly why it left a trail of chaos and controversy in its wake. Amateur performers, a panel of celebrity judges, and one big, intimidating gong. The moment a performance went downhill, the judges would slam the gong, instantly terminating the act. It was wild, unpredictable, and often absurd, and that was exactly the point. Some of the acts on The Gong Show were so controversial and downright inappropriate that they caused public outrage. This wasn't your typical find the next big star talent show. It was a parade of weirdness, awkwardness, and at times, acts that were too edgy for mainstream television. Some performances pushed the envelope to the point where entire episodes were pulled from airing. Could you imagine tuning in for a family-friendly talent show, only to see something so edgy it felt like it should be censored? The Gong Show was exactly that kind of unpredictable madness, and it didn't take long before viewers started questioning what was appropriate for primetime television. But it wasn't just the contestants causing a stir, it was the host, Chuck Barris. Barris was the mastermind behind The Gong Show, but his behavior was far from conventional. He was eccentric, unpredictable, and at times downright odd. There were constant rumors about his mental state, with people wondering if the chaos of the show was a direct reflection of Barris himself. Was his erratic hosting style a calculated move for television, or was it a sign that he was losing control of the insanity that he had created? Many speculated that the show wasn't just entertainment, but a window into Barris's own unraveling mind. Did he have any idea what was real anymore, or was he caught in the madness of the spectacle he'd created? The Gong Show was actually a biting satire on traditional talent competitions. The show intentionally mocked the mainstream entertainment world, often absurd alternative to the polished, predictable formats we were used to. It wasn't about finding the next big star, instead it was about poking fun at the idea of talent itself. By pushing boundaries, Barris and his crew forced us to rethink what we considered acceptable for TV. In a way, The Gong Show became a mirror for society, challenging norms and asking, what really is entertainment? Real People was a heartfelt and often hilarious dive into the quirks, talents, and downright weirdness of everyday Americans. This was the show that put regular folks front and center, celebrating their oddities and achievements with a mixture of humor and inspiration. Whether it was a unique inventor showing off his latest wacky processes, or a local hero making a difference in their community, Real People was all about showcasing the stories that made America, well, uniquely American. But of course, for all its charm and feel-good vibes, Real People wasn't without its controversies and curiosities. For starters, the show thrived on humor, sometimes at the expense of its subjects. While many segments were lighthearted and fun, some critics argued that the show occasionally got into mockery, laughing at people instead of with them. But here's the twist. Real People actively involved its audience in creating the show. Viewers could write in and suggest stories, giving the show an interactive quality that was revolutionary for its time. But it also raised questions about editorial bias. Whose stories made the cut, and why? Despite its wholesome premise, Real People wasn't free from criticism. Some felt the show overly simplified complex stories, or glossed over important details in favor of punchy soundbites and quick laughs. A show that took the concept of getting to know your partner to a whole new level, and often an inappropriate level. It aired from 1966 to 1974 and brought newly married couples on stage to answer personal questions about one another. But what seemed like lighthearted fun quickly turned into a scandal-ridden mess when you started to peel back the many controversial layers. This show was infamous for its explicit content, Questions like, "What's the strangest place you've ever made a whoopee?" had audiences roaring with laughter and blushing at the same time. But what most people didn't realize was how these questions pushed the limits of 1970s decency standards. Critics called it trashy and moralists deemed it immoral. And yet, viewers were hooked. Because, let's face it, nothing's more entertaining than seeing couples embarrass themselves on live television. But here's where it gets a little bit shady. Behind the laughs, there were whispers about the show being staged. Contestants were allegedly coached to exaggerate their answers or play into their spouse's quirks to make things spicier for the cameras. Some former participants claimed that producers even egged them on to create drama, turning what was supposed to be an innocent quiz into a reality TV spectacle before reality TV was actually a thing. And then there was Bob Eubanks, the charming yet controversial host. Sure, he had the charisma to carry the show, but his cheeky remarks often crossed the line. In an era where political correctness wasn't much of a thing, Eubanks' humor sometimes veered into the offensive. Critics argue that his comments reinforced stereotypes and demeaned women, but that didn't stop the show's massive popularity. Now, let's get real for a moment. You would think with all the buzz around prying into couples' personal life, there'd be more care taken in screening contestants. But the fact remains it wasn't. The show had its fair share of awkward moments, like contestants revealing way too much about their private lives or straight up arguing on stage. And then there were contestants who got divorced shortly after airing on the show together. The show that brought families together on national television only to have them battle it out for prize money, glory, and maybe a few grudges. Airing from 1976, it quickly became a beloved household staple. But behind the smiles, quirky surveys, and catchy theme music, this show had its fair share of drama and eyebrow-raising scandals. First, we've got to talk about Richard Dawson, the original host and face of Family Feud in its early years. Dawson wasn't just known for his quick wit and charm, he became infamous for his habit of kissing every female contestant on the show. Yes, every single one. He even earned the nickname the Kissing Bandit. At the time, it was brushed off as playful and endearing, but looking back, it's a bit unsettling. Imagine being kissed by a stranger in front of a live audience and millions of viewers at home. Dawson later defended his behavior, claiming it was his way of making contestants feel at ease, but it has not aged well in today's context. Now let's talk about fairness, or rather the lack of it. There were many rumors swirling that certain families received special treatment. Allegations included producers helping contestants with answers or strategically selecting families with good TV appeal over skill. This led to questions about the integrity of the game show itself. And let's not forget about the scandalous survey questions. Family Feud became known for its spiciness, sometimes downright inappropriate prompts like, "Name a part of your body that's bigger now than it was when you were 16. Sure, it got many laughs, but it also made viewers wonder how far the show was willing to go for a joke. Despite all of this, Family Feud became a cultural icon, blending humor with controversy. It was a reflection of family dynamics, the good, the bad, and the messy. The game show that dared to mix trivia with a slot machine gimmick, a charming host, big prizes, and that spinning slot machine wheel that could make or break your day. But here's the thing. Beneath the flashy exterior and catchy theme music lay a string of controversies that made the seemingly innocent game show a little dicey. First off, let's talk about its creator and host, Jack Barry. This man wasn't just the face of Joker's Wild, he was also the face of a massive scandal that rocked the entire game show industry. If you've heard of the infamous 1950s quiz show scandals, you'll know Jack Barry's name. Before the Joker's Wild, he was involved in 21, a show that was exposed for feeding contestants answers to rig the outcomes. While Barry eventually returned to television with the Joker's Wild, the shadow of his past scandals had lingered. The slot machines were the centerpieces of the game, a unique twist that set the Joker's Wild apart from other trivia shows. But there were rumors swirling about the machines not being as random as they seemed. Allegations of manipulation suggested that the wheels could be subtly rigged to ensure specific outcomes. Producers, of course, denied this, but the skepticism never fully went away. And let's not forget the untimely death of Jack Barry in 1984. After his passing, the show attempted a revival, but it never quite captured the magic, or the chaos for that matter, of the original run. Without Barry at the helm, the Joker's Wild felt like it lost its edge, and the revamped version fizzled out. The wildly popular and borderline chaotic game show that dominated the 70s. It was goofy, outrageous, and unpredictable in all the best ways, but don't be fooled by its lighthearted vibe. Beneath the laughs and shady hints, the show had its fair share of eyebrow-raising moments and controversies. First, the format. Contestants filled in the blanks to absurd, often suggestive prompts, hoping to match answers with a panel of celebrity guests. On the surface, it seemed simple enough, but Match Game was a comedy hour where the jokes were sometimes so indecent, they tiptoed right up to the edge of censorship. The show quickly became known for its shady hints, and honestly, a lot of viewers tuned in just to see how far they'd push the envelope. Questions like, "Dumb Dora was so dumb, she thought a blank was a dessert," were just thinly veiled setups for outrageous answers. And the panelists, well, they delivered. Speaking of panelists, we've got to mention the cast of regulars. Brett Somers and Charles Nelson Riley were fan favorites, known for their quick wit, banter, and occasional jabs at one another. But their chemistry wasn't always warm and fuzzy. Behind the scenes, there were rumors of real tension between panelists. Arguments and personality clashes were reportedly common, though the cast's on-screen antics often overshadowed the drama. And let's not forget the host, Gene Rayburn. While he was loved for his charisma and humor, Rayburn also faced many criticisms for some of his interactions with female contestants and panelists, which haven't aged particularly well. His playful flirting was a hallmark of the show, but looking back, some moments seemed uncomfortable, even creepy. The biggest controversy, though, came from Match Game's insistence on bending the rules to keep the game entertaining. Contestants occasionally accused producers of editing answers to create more drama or favoring celebrity panelists' responses over other contestants. It was also rumored that both the host and celebrity panelists would consume alcohol during tapings, which sometimes led to inappropriate comments and behavior on air. It wasn't about the game at all. It was all about the personalities, the humor, and that little hint of chaos that made it unforgettable. But what do you think? Which of these caught you off guard? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you're craving more secrets and scandals from your favorite 70s shows, make sure to check out our video on the darker side of the era's entertainment. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories just like this. And as always, thank you for watching.